Houston Texans offensive line coach Mike Devlin, photo by Tom Szczerbowski, Getty Images. The Houston Texans have barely made a peep in free agency. They've signed guys to fair but meager deals and have yet to make a huge splash this week, which was when the legal tampering period ended and teams could exclusively negotiate with players. The Houston Texans came up short. They allowed Tyrann Mathieu, Kareem Jackson, Covington and to a lesser extent, Kendall Lamm all partake in the riches that were waiting for them with other teams. With the Houston Texans having $80 million or so to spend at the start of the free agency period, the team's signings have quickly dwindled their balance to about $46 million, with the bulk of the charge to pay for Jadeveon Clowney's $17 million franchise tag for this season. If the Houston Texans are able to work out a long-term deal with Clowney, then their salary cap space will modestly increase a bit for 2019 and even out through a likely blockbuster multi-year deal that he'd definitely be eager to sign the dotted line on. Whatever way, the Houston Texans have decided to retreat from the deep bowels of free agency and have their eyes dead set for finding top-tier talent in the NFL draft. One of the most important units of this team that must be overhauled is the offensive line, and the team needs draft a tackle high, especially if it's a guy they want to take with the 23rd pick in the first round, because with the losses the line has sustained to free agency and with Chantrell Henderson's health continuously being a question, they've got to hit on a pick that's ready to make an impact immediately. Who exactly would that be? I've got a few suggestions of who the Houston Texans should take in this season's draft. In fact, I've got 3 tackles that this team should target in this draft because they would serve as a philosophical fit with the Houston Texans. Who are they? Come on and take this journey with me. Next, tackle. Miller, Icon Sportswire via Getty Images. I can't think of an offensive tackle that would fit greater than the likes of Cody Ford. He's a perfect fit for the Houston Texans. The words versatile, flexibility, and athleticism revolve around this guy like the 9 planets. Yes, Pluto is officially a planet again, of the solar system around the sun. These attributes should make any Houston Texans draft scout have their mouth watering with exfoliating foam as a lubricant for their inquisitive chins. The 6'3", 329-pound tackle with 34-inch arms and 9.75-inch hands out of the University of Oklahoma is NFL ready and has proven that he can play guard as well. That helps with an offensive line that seemed to do a lot of shifting of duties last season, either because of injury or just a way to stop the bleeding of Deshaun Watson getting creamed out on the field. Ford had the pleasure of protecting Kyler Murray, who's expected to be the No. 1 pick of the draft, a quarterback that possesses similar traits of our Deshaun, so he knows how to not only eat up the space that he is covering but is extremely effective in ensuring that nothing gets past him. According to Pro Football Focus, subscription required, through 877 snaps, Ford had a 76.5 grade for the 2018 season, which that would constitute a better grade than any of the tackles that were on the 2018 roster, let alone the entire offensive line itself. Ford was ranked 4th among tackles this past season in pass blocking efficiency, which is a calculation that PFF uses as a metric weighing how they handle pressures and sacks. Ford had an excellent PBE of a 99.1 and out of all the tackles that faced pressure on the inside as well as bull rush pressure, Ford was ranked 6th in terms of tackles that faced it. The most. He took 231.5 snaps with inside pressure and 462.0 in bull rush, demonstrating that this man can hold his own and still perform well when the heat is on, even against the best of the NFL. He will be the proverbial wall that Watson needs for protection, and the Houston Texans should be at the front of the line for this guy. He's above average with his pass, run and screen blocking, and the only knock on him was the 10 penalties that he accrued in 2018, which were the most of his career, even with him being a redshirt junior football player. That is kind of alarming, but this was the only season where he saw significant playing time. And besides, this is something that could be easily fixed with coaching at the next level. There's no question he will rack up some penalties as a professional, but the upside far outweighs his drawbacks. He made all of his starts at right tackle in his 14 games competing in the Big 12 and was a first-team selection within the conference for this past season. It's important to note that Ford was a four-star recruit out of high school and was named Defensive Player of the Year among the Oklahoma Scout team in his redshirt season back in 2015. He also valued his opportunity to finish up his education as an athlete and was graduate of the university this past December with a degree in criminology. That's interesting, so I guess he wants to be a part of some police department's CSI team when he hangs it up from football, but you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what Lamp Zierlein had to say about Ford. Ford offers a rare combination of physical and athletic traits that will have NFL teams dreaming of his upside. He's raw and relatively inexperienced as a starting tackle with exploitable holes that will need to be patched before he can thrive in the pros. As a tackle, he's a developmental, high-risk, reward talent. The safer, and better, route might be to play him as a guard where he will face less exposure in pass protection and where his size and athleticism should allow him to become a plus run blocker fairly quickly. Zierlein also compares Ford's traits to those of Brandon Brooks, who was truly one of my favorite Houston Texans that was not retained when his free agency was up for bid a few seasons back. He has since flourished with the Philadelphia Eagles on a lucrative contract and now has a Super Bowl ring to boot. The Houston Texans have an opportunity to get a player of his caliber back by drafting Ford into the mix. We'll have to keep our fingers crossed, but I think he's the right type of guy to bring into the fold. Next, tackle. 23 in the first round. It will be an immense reach upward if the Houston Texans want to set their sights on Cody Ford, but Williams should be on the board when it's our hometown's time to shine with their first pick of the draft. Charlie Campbell of WalterFootball.com said that Williams had a phenomenal interview with the NFL Combine. Communication, which is an important skill to have at a premium position like his, is paramount, and I wouldn't expect anything less out of a top-tiered offensive lineman. The 6'4", 302-pound tackle with 33.6-inch arms and 10.2-inch hands had a stellar senior season at Alabama and is primed to make his mark in the NFL. He has proven that he can play both tackle and guard well, so the Houston Texans can sleep easy knowing this guy can be shifted all around the offensive line, but his most effective area is on the right side of the line, either at tackle or guard. However, he could be just as stout on the left side, where he has played within his last 2 seasons with Bama, which is what makes Williams such a prudent pick for the Houston Texans to make. Henderson is not going to last forever. He's a stopgap, quite frankly, and Williams could certainly be the Houston Texans' right tackle of the future and eons beyond, especially with what Campbell reports him having an outstanding knowledge of technique. PFF has Jonah graded at a sterling 89.2 for the 2018 season through 908 snaps. He was ranked 8th among tackles in his pass blocking efficiency with a 98.7. Williams also took the 3rd most snaps among tackles, 241, against outside pressure, proving that he's ready to tango with cream of the crop talent as the SEC, as well as Alabama football, is the closest thing to a farm system that prepares players for the NFL. He's above average with his pass, run as well as screen blocking, as well as the pressures he deals with, and keeps his penalties to a minimum, which explains his acute attention to detail. His ability to avoid negative run blocks is a bit below average, but the whole package of Williams is much more promising than that minor tidbit. He's known to create holes for his running backs, something that the Texans have had problems doing for the past few seasons. Alabama's offense was ranked 3rd in the FBS this season, 45.6 points per game, and Williams was instrumental to their success. He did not allow a sack, yielded just 3 pressures, and missed only 3 assignments through his snaps last season. He was unanimous first-team All-American. He won the Jacobs Blocking Trophy, awarded to the SEC's top offensive lineman, and was, of course, named to the All-SEC first team. Here's what Zierlein had to say about him: early entrant and 3-year starter whose work ethic, attention to detail and desire to get better each day have made him a foundation piece of Alabama's dominant run. Like his idol, Joe Thomas, Williams uses angles, technique and body control to succeed in all facets of the game. He looked more comfortable in his pass sets at left tackle in his final year, and he has the tools necessary to counter bigger, longer edge defenders despite a lack of ideal size and length for the left tackle spot. His cerebral nature and potential versatility should make him a safe pick and successful, long-time starter in the NFL. His student-like approach to the game with unique intuitiveness and versatility that he brings to the position makes Williams a perfect pick for the Texans and is on equal footing with Ford. I certainly hope the Texans strike it big by landing this powerhouse of offensive talent, as he can be the centerpiece that can make this unit leap new bounds. I'm sold on him. Next, tackle. For Washington State offensive tackle Andre Dillard, who should be targeted by the Houston Texans. Photo by Robert Johnson, Icon Sportswire via Getty Images. Remember the adage that Brian Gaine and Bill O'Brien keep hammering into our heads in regard to the type of players they want? Well, let me remind you, they want players who are stronger, longer and faster. These were some of first words uttered out of Gaine's mouth in his introductory press conference last season, and they're sticking to the script as he goes into his second off-season of building up this team. Andre Dillard is definitely that guy they're talking about. It's important to mention that the 6'4", 310-pound tackle with 34-inch arms and 9.63-inch hands can run the 40-yard dash in 5.10 seconds. For a man of that much girth and strength, that's actually quite impressive, which would pay huge dividends for this team. I'd certainly want to try my hand at either Ford or Williams, as I previously mentioned, but I think Dillard would be the solid insert to this offensive line, as I think his quickness and athleticism are second to none, and those aforementioned traits will help this team's offense evolve hopefully into an unstoppable machine. I keep waiting for the season when that unit will be able to do that, but if the right pieces are added, we may finally see some improvement in the offense's production as a whole. Campbell writes that Dillard is adept at heading off speed rushers and keeping them from getting turned to the quarterback. This certainly means that he could serve as the proverbial speed break for the Texans and help Watson become that much stronger in making the big plays for this team without sacrificing his body. He has a reputation of protecting QB's blind sides, which has certainly been a problem for the OL for quite some time. PFF had Dillard ranked 6th among tackles with his pass blocking efficiency, 98.9, and saw a considerable amount of pressure on the outside, taking 106.9 snaps, which was ranked 12th among tackles. He's above average in just about every metric you can think of, with the exception of him not having innate ability to avoid negative run blocks, which could be same said of Williams. His overall grade was an extremely solid 85.1 through 985 snaps. He only accrued 4 penalties and allowed 1 sack in 677 pass attempts within his courageous senior campaign with the Cougars. He also was named to All Pac-12 first-team roster after his notable performance, and more from House of Houston ranked 3rd among tackles via PFF. Here's Zierlein's quick take on Dillard, talented 4-year starter at left tackle with outstanding feet who offers an instant athletic upgrade for teams getting battered from the blind side. Because of his scheme, Dillard will be a little behind in terms of his feel for set points and firing off the ball in the run game. While he could play with a little more ferocity as a finisher, he has the athletic ability to make all the blocks and the protection talent to become a good, early starter on the left side. He also notes that Dillard has high character and is intelligent, which are definitely important attributes to consider when the Houston Texans pick players to be a part of their organization, especially the character part. Although Dillard would not be my first choice by any means, I think he'd be a nice upgrade on the left side, especially if things don't necessarily work out with Julian Davenport. To which things are starting to trend in that direction. I certainly hope that Davenport proves us wrong though, because he has so much potential to be great in this league. But if the Texans were to bring Dillard into the fold, and he'd probably be available even early in the second round, I'd still applaud them for the move, so let's certainly hope that happens if Ford or Williams are not available. Next, Texans. 5 bold trades the team needs to explore. Want your voice heard? Join the House of Houston team. Write for us. So there you have it. Here are my 3 tackles that the Houston Texans should target in this season's draft. Do you agree? Feel free to sound off in the comments section below. For more grades, advanced statistics, and more at Pro Football Focus, subscribe to PFF's Edge or Elite subscriptions at ProFootballFocus.com.